Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit, Brexit Britain, a country where, to me, things just seem like so hypocritical. Right? Isn't this just kind of blatant? Right? Now look, you have Caucasians murdering Caucasians. The world has come out immediately like that. They want it stopped. They're bringing out all sorts of different sanctions. They want it stopped. There's no fly zones, right? There's no sports. There's no ballerinas. There's no Eurovision. But yet for all, right? You've had brown people in Palestine, right, being slaughtered for nigh on 80 years. No, 80 years. Right? And they have the cheek, right, to brand people in Palestine who are fighting for their freedom as terrorists. That's how they brand them. They brand them as terrorists, not as people who's having an apartheid committed on them, which today is the 2nd of March, and this was said on the 1st of February by Amnesty International. It should have been said years ago. But this is where we are, right? If you see Caucasians murdering each other in a war, that has to be stopped. But you know what? Caucasians can kill brown and black people for as long as they want. This is a sad, racist world. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me, and a special thanks to everybody who signed up to our channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all the messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. So, the MPs have awarded themselves a pay rise of £2,200. They got it under the radar. They just snuck it under the radar though, because that's what they do. They just wait for like a really a day where there's a lot of news, and they just sneak that in, right? But this is where we are. And this is who these people are. You have to say, well, when's the last time you've had a two grand rise? Right? And because they'll tell you now, oh well, our wages now, it's now 80. I think it's 84,200 and something pounds, right? Right, they're failing to tell you about the rent money, right? What they're paid, the 23,000 pounds for rent that they're paid, right? Or the 6 grand that they're paid for the for utilities, right? So these are things that they just throw in there, but they say, oh no, that's not part of their wages. Since when, is your electric bill, right, and or your house payments, right, not part of your wages? Who's that work for? Who's that work for? Just say, well, which boss ever says to someone, well, you know what, yeah, you come work for me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 30 grand, right? I'm going to give you another 12 grand on top for your rent. Right, and your utilities, I'm going to give you maybe £3,000 a year for utility. No, it never works like that. Your boss just said to you, I'm giving you if you say, well, I'm giving you 35 grand. That's it, right? Pay your own shit, right? But the way these people work it, they're just like, and to award yourself that kind of money as well, right? When everybody else in the country, right, is really having a really hard time, but the politicians are like, well, I believe that for them is still might be just below the rate of inflation. But when you're in control, of over 100 grand, what is it, 100 and probably let's just say 115, right? That we say it's probably actually 120 that goes into their direct wages. So when you're kicking in that type of money, does inflation really matter to you? Does it really matter to you? Because I think that inflation really kicks in for people who are probably under £50,000 a year. Right? That's what I think the inflation. But I think once you probably well over that threshold. I mean, I don't really think inflation really matters to you as such. Do you know what I mean? Because you probably have the money in your bank account anyway to get you through times anyway, because you can afford to save. You're getting 120 grand a year, right? you can afford to save quite easily. Right, so all the nonsense what these guys are just talking is just an absolute load of crap. Do you know what I mean? For them, right, to issue themselves, right, and just do it in our face. They don't really care. They don't really care at all. Do you know what I mean? Just in our face. Do you know what I mean? Remember, yeah, all the utility, the high utility costs, right? They're not affected by none of that. Right, none of that doesn't affect them. Right, food price when the food prices go up, they're not affected by that. They can still quite afford to to fill their trolleys exactly as they was before. In fact, they'll just have a Ocado, right, or one of the other delivery companies come and just fill their basket and just bring it to them, right, with no fares at all. So they don't business, and that's why they can just award themselves, right, £2,200, right, when already, that when we get a pay rise, it'll be like we might just get to £200. Right? Seriously. And the underground workers was on strike yesterday, because since the pandemic, there's been a lot of obviously the underground hasn't been taking anywhere near the money that it would have taken before. So the government now, right, is what they're doing. They're trying to make Sadiq Khan really unpopular. So that's what they're doing, right? So because what they're doing is they're just basically giving him options. Well, either, right, you can we can just bankrupt the whole system, right, or you can take this really poor deal. And obviously he's just got to take the poor deal because he's got to keep London moving. Do you know what I mean? But obviously the tube workers will not understand that, especially as it looks like the government's going after their pensions. You know how they do all the time. When it comes down to it, working class people, they always come after your pensions and want to start changing your pensions around, right? Mess about with it. And every time they change it around, it just means that you're going to get less, right? You notice how their pensions is never ever messed around with. Their pensions is just, what's the word that I'm looking for? Fact, right? That's how their pensions is. They just drop it fact, right? And that's it. But it's down to us because we allow these people to get away with this, right? So you see the tube workers was on strike yesterday, but it's thing. I think that it's affecting today as well because obviously a lot of the tubes are not going to be in the right place. They're going to be completely in the wrong place, so they're going to have to get it all back on track again. So it probably won't be up and running properly until tomorrow. When what's tomorrow? Thursday. I believe they're going on another strike tomorrow. I believe, So, but you can't really blame people when especially when their conditions are being changed just like that. Do you know what I mean? Because no one would put up with that. But the way how the government does do it, they just put you in a situation where they just say, well, you know what, that's what we're doing, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? So the tube drivers have got a massive fight on their hands, and the tube underground workers, I say. And the fact is, they want to get rid of a lot of the staff as well, because you know how they do. They don't want to employ, workers. That's one of the government's main beef. That's why all of these companies they're giving all of our utility companies to these private companies. That's the reason why. That's why we haven't had no real investments in our water systems, and they can just dump a load of raw sewage in the water because private companies can do that, right? But if it's government owned, they wouldn't really be able to do that as such. Do you know what I mean? They would have to make sure that they've got the chemicals, right, to clean the shit up, and literally. Right, so anyway, Vladimir Putin, right, the crazy madman from Russia, right, the devastation this man is causing. When I'm looking at this, I'm just like, wow, right? He's just like, he's firing like cruise missiles in now, right? And you think, wow, this is the people that look like you, and you're just bombing them indiscriminately. Do you know what I mean? Just like. The level of evil that takes, right? To try and just exterminate people that look like you, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and you're just firing indiscriminate like cruise missiles and vacuum bombs and cluster bombs, into like civilian areas, right? The psychopathic nature, right, of Vladimir Putin is really showing. I mean, it's really showing out, out in the open now, because every day we're seeing, I mean, yesterday they blew up the TV tower yesterday and killed 5 people in there, just murdered 5 people in there. I just have to wonder, yeah, how it is, yeah, that world leaders can just murder as many people as they want. How are they allowed to get away with that? Yeah, how is it that they're just that's, well, we can just do it, and that's it. This is just 100% disgusting. It really is. People keep saying to me, oh well, you keep on mentioning, like, you talk about Israel and Palestine. And I say, well, I feel exactly the same way about China and Saudi Arabia. Right, if I'd have no problem, right, in seeing bin Salman dragged into The Hague, absolutely none at all, and Xi Jinping dragged into The Hague, right? But my thing would be to say to say for the Uyghurs, well, you know what, we want to give you free passage. You can come and live over here. I wonder how many, right, of you people, right, who mention China, right, would be up for that. Because that's what I would do. I'll just say to China, listen, just give them people free pass so they can come, because you know what, you can't keep them in that situation that they're in. That's what I'll do. Yeah, and I would make sure that Saudi Arabia stop bombing Yemen. Just step in, make sure they do it. But you see, as I said, it doesn't matter, right, if brown or black people are being murdered. The world just looks away. They look away for 80 years. They look away at apartheid. They just look away, right? Look how long South Africa went on for, right? And the world had to, Thatcher actually called Nelson Mandela a terrorist, and that's probably the reason why she died in a hotel room by herself, right? And he died with all his family around him. So. It's a thing what the West have of doing. They just go to someone else's country, they take it over, right, and then they start branding those people as terrorists, because you know what, you've come and stolen my land, right, and I'm fighting you, but they just brand you as a terrorist. Right, in the same way, right, that you haven't got one politician around the world that's prepared to put up their head above the parapet, right, and say to Israel, listen, you need to stop what you're doing. I mean, the last one we had who was going to take on Israel was Jeremy Corbyn, and look what happened to him. And that is because of the strength of Israel, right, around the world, right? Because already, that the infiltration of the Labour Party, right, by members who are seeking to make sure that Israel can just continue along their murderous way. Right? I mean, this is the reason why Labour's not in power, because Jeremy Corbyn went to take that stance, right, against Israel, and look where he is now, completely thrown out of the Labour Party. Right, just absolute garbage. But then, we look at this situation in Ukraine, right, and within immediately they're taking out sanctions, right? They're giving the Ukrainians weapons. Why don't you give the Palestinians some weapons so they can defend themselves? Give them some weapons so they can defend themselves, right? Because if you're not going to stop Israel, right, from battering them, right, for nigh on 80 years, if you're not going to stop that, arm the Palestinians so that they can defend themselves, right? Make it into a fair fight. Like you're trying to do with Ukraine. You're giving, immediately you're flooding Ukraine with weapons, so much weapons that they can start handing out weapons to the civilian population. Right? So why can't Palestine have to get the same? It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, let's speak about some Brexit, because all of that is quite depressing. War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Right, so delays at UK ports doubled as Brexit red tape slows customs. Doubled. Can you believe that? Right, it was already really shitty round there, right, and now it's doubled. Wow. So that's like, I don't know if that situation can get any better any soon, because obviously they haven't got we don't have control of that situation. Right, so you probably can look and say, well, this is the EU punishing us for leaving, and that is probably true. That is probably true, because but then you say, well, why should they do you any favors? Because you gave Ukraine a few guns. Nah, you see, economics don't work like that. Right? Anybody will be happy with you, right, if they're being attacked and you give them guns. Anybody will be happy with you, right? But then go and try and talk trade. They'll be like, oh, well, can't we talk next week? And then we've got a lack of ambition. Furious row erupts as Britain fails in key opportunities. See, because the opportunities that Boris Johnson is not taking. Boris Johnson has been accused of failing to properly implement elements that could see Britain on the path to success. Success of what? You see, these people, yeah, because that's in the that was in the Express. Obviously, the Express is it's a very, very Brexity paper, but these people are still with this nonsense, right? You just say, well, can't you see the queues at Dover? Can't you see what's going on there? Right? And these people will still be lying, right, to these racist, foolish Brexiters, right, who are just sucking all this up, right? Just and sucking up what, right? And say, and because they're looking now and thinking, yeah, well, look at Boris Johnson on the world stage. Look at him, right? He's walking, in Poland, and in Poland getting his ass cut off by the Ukrainian woman, right? Who said to him, you know what, we need a no-fly zone. And he said, well, no, we can't do that, because if we do that, right, we'll come into direct contact with Russia. And that could trigger a nuclear war. This is one mad world. Just absolutely crazy. Remember when they told us, remember when we said, you know what, right? When Britain Brexited, yeah, that war could kick off in Europe. And war has already kicked off in Europe. One could say that we're already at war with Russia. You could say that. It just depends on how far Putin is prepared to take this, because you see, his economy is being trashed. Right, the ruble is worth nothing. The ruble is worthless right now. It's worth nothing. Right, so his economy is being completely trashed. So I don't know how long he can continue, like, with his propaganda lies to his people. Don't know how long you can keep that up for, but I do know that, like, where the price what I've seen the ruble at, because it's like 3 times lower than the dollar now. Do you know what I mean? So that's on the floor, and that's not something you could just bring back up overnight. It takes quite a while to bring your currency back up. So so right now, and then they've had to. I think the mortgage. The mortgage rates have gone from something like 4% to 16%, just like that, in one day. So it really is dire for Russia. Especially economically, really dire for them. But we'll have to see how the crazy guy goes. Anyway, guys, I'm well over my time again. This is By Any Means Necessary. I'm MC John Ribs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.